Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Dusty, the host, as always, and I am joined today by Mr. Ben Dykes from the Veteran Biker YouTube channel. Ben is a veteran. He was in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's lived in the UK for 6 years. His channel, Veteran Biker on YouTube, now has over 125,000 subscribers with just over 200 videos, which is a really good ratio if you're keeping track. Ben, how are you doing today?
Couldn't be better, Dusty. Couldn't be better. Honored to be here. Really appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolutely. So the Veteran Biker YouTube channel, give us the story behind it. How did it start? Why did you start it? What is it about? Give us the whole spiel.
So I started my YouTube journey about, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I really started out just making videos riding my Harley Davidson motorcycle. Had a really good friend that I served with. We rode all over Europe on our Harley Davidsons, and he got to a point where he couldn't ride anymore. And he still lives in the UK. So I started making some videos to share with him, and it became easier to put them on a YouTube channel for him to watch rather than like download, upload, play the whole GoPro transfer. And so that's where it kind of started, just making motorcycle videos, riding. And then I made a couple of videos about my disappointment with the Harley Davidson brand, the business practice that I didn't agree with. I love the machine. I didn't agree with their business practices. And I made one video and it just kind of exploded. And I think when you start YouTube, you put out videos that you think are interesting, and you think you're going to find your audience. But what I've learned is your audience finds you. The people that you don't find your audience, you don't find your subscribers, they find you. And that's what happened to me.
So the channel's now grown to over 125,000 people strong. Tell us about kind of the types of content that you post now and kind of how your channel's evolved over time.
Yeah, I started out, like I said, making motorcycle videos, and now I'm a veteran, so I have a different perspective on life. I have a different perspective whenever I see things on the news, things on TV, than your average person you're standing in line with at the grocery store. And I caught myself. I used to work as a lobbyist for a veterans organization, helping lobby for veterans' rights. So that was really important to me. And I caught myself watching the news a lot, and my conversations with various people would always revolve around the news. So I just started making videos about maybe like a veteran's perspective, or at least my perspective on things I see on the news that affect active duty, veterans, military, people that have family around the military. And I just kind of give a veteran's perspective, sometimes unfiltered. I always say in my videos, I'm an expert on my opinion. And that's kind of what I do. I give my opinion on things that I see happening around the world here in the United States, from a veteran's perspective.
I love that. And let me just say publicly, thank you for your service. I do.
No problem.
We do appreciate that.
I would do it again. Absolutely.
So let's kind of transition now more towards the YouTube side of things.
Okay.
You obviously came from a background where you weren't in media. You weren't in front of the camera. I mean, if I could maybe say this, you might have been as far from that as possible. I mean, that's not really what you really were used to. So in the early days of starting the YouTube channel, what do you think are a couple of things that you did right that helped the channel propel, and maybe a couple of things that you did not so well that you would say, hey, stay away from these mistakes. I've made them. I've been there.
I think the first thing is you think that very first video you make is going to be amazing. And after watching, I think everybody watched Mr. Beast, right? So I watched an interview Mr. Beast did with a couple of guys, and I can't remember their names. And he said, look, make 50 videos and then come talk to me. Mm-hmm. And I think by doing that, it kind of removes that need to be perfect and that polishing the cannonball. Just make some videos. 10 videos later, go back and watch some, and you're going to say, oh man, that part sucked, or I could have done this better. And I keep it very simple. I think And the other thing is, most people think that you need all this high-tech equipment. Everyone walks around with an iPhone or an Android, and that's all you need. And that's what I used for so long before I actually bought a desk camera. I use a Sony ZV-10 or E10, whatever it is, and a microphone. And the other thing is, like, mimic those that you like, or try to copy their, maybe not their style, but pull what they're doing and put it into your own toolbox. And the channels I watched, I just picked up, oh, okay, a little of this, a little of that. There's so many good channels that you can get information from, that you learn from, and you can pick up just a little bit here and a little bit there, and just try to improve on this video to the next video. And then the big thing, a really good friend of mine, he's a movie guy and former MTV VJ. He said, your video can do anything. People will accept bad video. No one will accept bad audio. So get a good microphone. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's some of the best advice that I've ever been given, is that, listen, I get it, YouTube's a video platform, but man, the audio is so critical. People, watch time, retention, keeping people on a video for a long while is very important. And if they're bouncing off because they click on your video and all they hear is static or crunch or whatever it may be, and that quality of audio is not crisp and clear, man, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. You're kind of hurting yourself from the beginning. Now, as far as like some failures, I love talking about failures, like mistakes that you've made. I've talked about some of my big ones here on the podcast many times. What's one that stands out for you that you look back at and you're like, man, in these 200 some odd videos of starting this thing, I really messed up here?
I think the big thing is, you think you're going to make a video and everyone's going to love it. If you narrow down your audience, and YouTube analytics is so good about showing you specifically who your audience is, age group, gender, region, country. If you make a video for one specific person, your perfect ideal watcher.
Right.
Make a video for that perfect ideal watcher, and it will cast a larger shadow. Make a video that you would watch. I go back and watch my videos all the time, and make a video you would watch, make it for that one specific perfect ideal target. And that's kind of the way I look at it,
Yeah, thinking that, I've been in that trap before where I get the comment that is negative or whatever it may be, and I have to kind of get myself beyond it. How did you hype yourself up for being comfortable on camera, or is that something that just came natural to you?
My previous job, it really set me up. I worked, like I said, as a lobbyist for a veterans organization. And they sent me to a public speaking training, and I got to go and go to this public speaking training. And during my time in the military, you would go and give briefings to high ranking individuals and things like that. I worked at an embassy in the UK. I've met more celebrities than I ever thought about, and I never really got hung up on that. But going to the public speaking training, I learned ums and uhs are a sign of you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't know how to get your message across. You might have the knowledge, but you don't have that message. So being able to catch and cut off those ums and uhs, that was a big one for me. My previous employer paid for me to go and learn from a real professional. It was the best thing that I never paid for. I'll say that.
I have a tool now that allows me to pump in my podcast whenever I record podcast, and it will detect the ums and the ahs, and it will remove them.
I need to know what that is
for you. And it's a tool called Descript, Descript. It works for both audio and video. They're not a sponsor. I pay for the service. I bring that up to just say, holy cow, I did not realize, I find myself, I do a lot of voice acting on the side. I do a lot of DJing on the side as well. And so with that being the case, I thought I was fairly good at articulating and at not using these, what they call filler words, because that's what they are. And you said it so eloquently there about, listen, when you're using these words like so and like, you're really just filling time as you're trying to come up with something. But if you're confident with what you're saying, it really comes across on camera when you're not utilizing those filler words like the ones that we just mentioned. So there's the way that I practiced that early on was in front of a mirror, or I would have a conversation with my wife, then girlfriend or fiance, and I would say, hey, I'm going to, read this kind of what I'm going to do for a video, for a podcast intro or a spot. I want you to tell me how I did, and I'd record that, and I'd go back and see how I did, how I handled myself, and it's really just practice. It's kind of like what you said about Mr. Beast, uploading video or podcast after podcast and really trying to improve as you implement and as you upload more videos.
Yeah, I have like I said, I'm a Navy guy. I was a submarine guy, worked underwater. The whole technical aspect, I wasn't really the best at. I'm probably still not the best. I have kind of a weird method, the way that I make videos. A lot of the news clips that I pull, I will put in. I use iMovie is all I use, right? My audience doesn't want a bunch of special effects and lightning and fire and all this other stuff. So I will pull up iMovie. I'll drop the clip in that I want to use, and I'll play the clip to a point where I want to interject, and I'll cut it. I have OBS Studio up. I'll film what I want to say. It could be 30 seconds, could be 2 minutes. And then I'll drop that in. I'll play a little more of the clip. So I'm kind of loading and editing and recording all at the same time. And I don't use scripts, so it's not like I have to write this long script, because I don't feel like I need to memorize this whole dialogue. It's just a little interjection, and that's just works for me. It might not work for other people, but it works for me. And I think the big thing with YouTube is there's so much software out there, and you can use DaVinci Resolve and Adobe and all these other platforms, but they might not necessarily be the best for you. And if you just kind of find what works for you, I know some of the people you've had on your podcast, I've listened to a lot of them. You can get as technical as you want with YouTube, or you can keep it just as simple as you want. But whenever the person watching it is watching it on an iPhone or a cell phone or a TV, they have no idea what you built that video with, and it doesn't matter to them. It's just the product. It's just what you're delivering. So just make it easy for yourself, which in turn is going to make a better product for your listener or for your viewer.
I hesitate to even say this. I work with a number of YouTubers every single week. I interview 3 or 4 of them for this podcast every single week. We are experiencing right now on YouTube a time where people are wanting more unedited, more raw, transparent type video content than ever before. And the reason why I hesitate in saying that is because people might use that as an excuse to not upload quality content. Don't mistake what I'm saying that the content needs to be less quality. What I mean by that is that people are wanting more just raw. You get in front of the camera, you tell me what you think. And so this is a good transition to what you just said. You do pull a lot of clips from mainstream media,
Sure.
other places on the internet. Can you tell the audience how to appropriately and how to honor that as far as like avoid copyright strikes and things like that? Walk us through your workflow on pulling this media, how you react to it, and how to do it the right way on YouTube.
Yeah, it falls under the fair use, and I highly recommend people go and look at that. Now, if you go to someone's YouTube channel and you pull a clip from them, it's always best to ask permission, send them an email. Hey man, can I borrow this clip? That's one thing. But when you're pulling from like the public sector, the news, whatever your favorite news channel is, you still need to give that little acknowledgement in there that, hey, I'm providing this or I'm showing this, and I'm going to give my opinion on it. Because, YouTube has really cracked down on that what do they call it, where you're copying or where you're reusing. I think it's called reused content. And if you're going to do something like I do or like others do, you want to break it up. You don't want to play a 9-minute clip where you're just showing their show. You have to provide transformative content or transformative information where you are showing an example or showing what you're referencing and what you're talking about. I went to the Vid Summit conference down in Dallas. I thought I was going to go there and be like out of a fish out of water. I'm in my late 40s. I thought I was going to go be hanging around with a bunch of gamers, right? That's what I thought. I get there and there's so many other people that are older than me, younger than me. There's a guy that's a plumber, and it was so good to go and be able to sit around and talk with other people doing the same thing and learning how they incorporate their ideas into video. And you it's hard to find people in your neighborhood. You can talk to your neighbor about your front yard or backyard or the dogs or the kids, but finding people that can talk with you openly about YouTube, it is so good, because they'll pull up a video and say, hey, your hook sucked, your monologue sucked. And it's a real raw conversation. And I think that's what people need to hear. You don't need to hear all your family and friends saying, oh, this is so good. You need to hear that really good, critical, conversation.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that. It's funny that you said that about going to the event and thinking you were going to be a fish out of water, but then realizing it's the beauty of YouTube, man. Like YouTube, I have had so many, and I'm so thankful that I get to have this perspective. I've had Santa Claus on my podcast, people who are showing people how to be Santa Clauses on the podcast with their YouTube channel. I've had people who are in the crafting space. I've had women who started out as janitors and cleaners and are now making, $10,000 a month. I've had gamers. I've had veterans like you, crocheting lady. I've had people on my podcast from all different aspects of life. And holy cow, it is one of the things to where I'm so thankful for that perspective, but it lets you know how big the scope is on YouTube. So I want you listening to this to know that it doesn't matter what your niche or your space is. Whether you're a pastor or a plumber or a veteran, it doesn't matter. You have a place and you have an audience to find, like you said at the top of the show. What's something that you wish someone would have told you sooner about YouTube? Like looking back, like, man, I wish I would have known that sooner. That would have really helped.
For me, the big thing that they did tell me at the very beginning, and I ignored it. A friend of mine said, look, if you're going to start this, start an LLC. And I didn't really think. I was like, this is a hobby. I'm going to make a few videos. Nothing will come of it. If you want to do this, it'll cost you $50 to $100. File it as an LLC, because you never know what one single video can do. You never know. And that's what happened to me. One video. Typically, I get up in the morning, I have a cup of coffee, check the news, make a quick video and upload it, go walk my dogs. And I did that, and I'm walking my dogs, and just like everybody else, we've got this habit of checking YouTube Studio app. I'm walking my dogs 6 o'clock in the morning, and in like 30 minutes, this video had like 80,000 views. And I was like, something's wrong with this. Something's not right, and it just started snowballing. It really did. So I think if take advice of people that are smarter and better than you at that time, use that advice, prepare yourself for what might happen. Don't hide behind, well, that'll never happen. I don't know about you, but I keep a fire extinguisher under the sink in my kitchen just in case something happens, So I think if you look at it like that, of what could happen, that's a good way to look at it. And take advice from successful YouTubers. There's so many successful people on YouTube offering free advice that they could charge thousands of dollars for. Take that advice, mold it to yourself.
We always call it YouTube University. There's just so much free stuff. There was an interview of a young man who was like 18 years old, and he said, I went to Harvard. And the gentleman asked him who was interviewing him, he said, so you went to Harvard, you paid all that money, you got a scholarship, or what was it? He said, no, the Harvard computer science professors post all of their lectures on YouTube, and they, I watched them, and I've basically been to Harvard. And that's what he meant, is that, hey, listen, I've consumed this content, and it's as if I had went to Harvard. So you're right. There's so much good free stuff out there for you to kind of consume. All right, let's talk about your the tools of the trade. What are the tools that you use? Hardware, software? What's your tech stack? What are you doing to kind of make all this happen?
I have a Sony ZV-10. I use the lens that makes it blurry in the background, and I forget what it's called. I don't know what it's called. A friend of mine said, get this. This is what everybody's using. So I got that. It's a Sigma lens. It kind of blurs the background, makes you the focal point. Because I'm a talking head channel, I'm supposed to be the focal point. I use a MacBook I've got an iPhone because I can download clips from like Twitter and stuff and then just transfer it via AirDrop straight over. A good friend of mine, like I said, used to do some very important audio music type stuff, said, look, buy this microphone. I use a Shure something 7 microphone. He came over and had to set it up and tweak it. And that's about it. I keep it simple. You know, I'm a very simple person. I use iMovie to edit. I don't want to pay for an editing program. Call me cheap or whatever. That's about it. I use OBS Studio, which is a free software for recording. And that's it. YouTube does not have to be expensive. It can be as expensive of a hobby as you want, or it can be as cheap of a hobby you want. And that's the way I kind of look at it, you know, and I don't rely on YouTube as an income, as a full-time income. I don't know if I ever will, but like I said, I'm retired from the military. I work full-time. I make videos before I get up and go to work, so it doesn't interfere with family life and things like that. And I just try to keep it as simple as possible while still getting a good message out. I've built a really big following. I never thought I would have as many members I do on my channel, or the amount of people that follow my channel and send me emails and they mail me stuff. I never would have dreamed it, just by keeping it simple.
So, I mean, like, you did a video 2 weeks ago talking about the New York boycott is working. It's a video you did. I mean, 2 weeks ago, almost 700,000 views. You know, the simplicity seems to be working for you, which is great. I want to ask you about, you mentioned you do have a full-time job. YouTube's not what you do for a living, but let's talk about monetization. How are you making money? If you don't mind sharing, like, you know, if you are monetized, which I assume you are with the ad program, kind of share with us like how much money you're making on average from the YouTube channel, and kind of what's a monthly view count look like for your channel.
Monthly view count is usually about, I want to say it's about 1.5 million views per month. I get money from ad revenue. I do live streams, so I get money from the super chats from that. And then I set up the memberships on the channel because people want to join things and they want to support what they appreciate, or who they appreciate. So the members thing, it's a very cheap, I think it's like $2.99 for a monthly membership. I set up a Discord server that allows them to have access via that. So that kind of prompts people to join. And then I also upload my videos on a couple of other platforms to kind of spread your footprint. I think on average, I make between about $4,000 and $7,000 a month on YouTube is about average.
Yeah. And that sounds about right with the view count and being in the niche that you are in. And it sounds like to me that, you know, you're doing those few things, but it sounds like to me that if you really put your foot to the pedal, you could really turn that 4 to 7 into, you know, 8 to 12 pretty quickly if you want, you know, if you really had the time. And obviously you have a full-time job, and it's hard, you know, in regards to balancing this and personal life, which is important, because if you let this get in the way of your personal life, it will consume you if you allow it to. You talked about popping up that YouTube Studio app. I have a tendency of doing that at the most inopportune times, at dinner, at you know, on a walk, like you said, and it can either be really frustrating or really it can be exuberance, right? So I love that you said that. So can you talk about how do you balance it all? Like, how do you manage your time so well?
Well, for me, like I said, I work full time. I also, side note, I referee some college and high school basketball, so that keeps me active. You do have to have a disconnect. I try to do videos or make videos outside of the family circle so I don't affect them. Even though when we're around like big family gatherings, the nieces and nephews are like, he's got a YouTube channel and he's got this, and they want to talk about it. I've got friends that are always looking for advice, but you do have to build some of those inner barriers where, hey, this is dinner time. This is a nice meal out. We're going to the movies. Just turn off. You don't need that dopamine hit from the YouTube app, which a lot of people, it is like this habit. You just check it, you know? And you just have to be able to, you know, self-regulate some of that. And if you make a great video, ride that wave. If you make a bad video and it gets, you know, 800 views or 80 views, who cares? make the next video. Just continue to make the next video. Don't take it personal. Some of the comments I get are very vile and disgusting. Joe Rogan, I listen to Joe Rogan. He says he never reads the comments. And I try to reply to the good ones and I avoid the bad ones.
Yeah, I would imagine that being in the veteran political space that you're in,
it's epic.
that people really go to town on the comments. I've actually considered doing a short segment on the podcast where I have people send in the most insane comments that they've gotten over the past week, and I kind of read those out in a different or a fun tone. I think that would be interesting to do because, man, even me, I do tutorials. I do technology how-to videos and
to help people.
Yeah, you would be surprised. I had one a couple of weeks ago where I was showing people how to transition from Outlook email over to Gmail, and a guy told me, he said, I wish I could find you to kill you because you have taken my emails and deleted them. So he blamed me for deleting his emails. And, you know, I state clearly in the video, make sure you have a backup multiple times before I got into it. And I tell my wife all the time, you know, I appreciate you going and watching my videos, showing people, family, friends, coworkers, whatever. Just don't go to the comments section because you're going to think we're in danger. Unfortunately, people are living in their mom's basement and they have nothing better to do. So
true.
It's so fun. Now, what's next for you as we conclude this interview? Like, what are you looking to do? Because I was looking at your channel before we went live here with the show, and it seems like you're really hitting your stride. It seems like you're having a lot of videos take off in the past month. I mean, I look at your most popular videos and you have like 5 or 6 of them that you've done in the past 2 to 3 weeks that are really popping off over 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 views. So like, what are you looking to do? What are you wanting to do short-term and long-term?
You know, being in the Navy, being in the submarine service, being out at sea, you run into some big waves sometimes, and those waves settle and those waves dissipate. So while there's big waves, you know, prepare yourself and in this case, enjoy it. But those waves are going to subside and you'll go back to the grind and enjoy it while you can. But, you know, continue to learn from that. Go back and read your comments, because oftentimes some of the best ideas for videos are those comments that have 285 likes. And you're like, why did this comment get 285 likes? But that is your audience actively like hitting the doorbell on a comment saying, hey, this is something we're interested in. You said something earlier about that kind of raw video interpersonal thing. Mm-hmm. So I started a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago, I would do live streams in the morning, just a quick little news rundown, similar to Talking Heads on TV. And one morning I was in a rush and I couldn't. So I go up to this field where I take my dogs out to go run. And I literally just propped my iPhone up on a hay bale, on a bucket on top of a hay bale. And I just went live on that. And people absolutely love that real engagement. So just know your audience and never think that throwing a little bit of change or a little difference in what you're regularly doing is not going to work, because now people expect every live stream for my dogs to come in, because in that couple of videos, I've got 2 dogs. One's a service dog, and they come in and everybody, I think my dogs are more popular in my videos than I am.
That's so true.
And it's so crazy. And with a lot of the super chats that I make, I help other veterans here in the area that I've helped quite a few veterans pay for their service dogs to be trained, or I've even helped a couple of guys like pay for vet bills. And people have that connection. And if you build that connection, it really, you know, you've got your hardcore ride or die crowd that will be with you through thick and thin. They're going to watch every bad video and enjoy every good one. And you just have to find that ride or die crowd that works for you. I never thought standing in a field while my dogs run around chasing rabbits and birds with an iPhone would ever make a hill of beans. One of my subscribers said, hey, the audio sucks. I was like, man, I'm in a field talking on a hay bale. He sent me a microphone that plugs into an iPhone. So your audience, your listeners, your viewers, your subscribers, they want you to be successful because they enjoy you being successful.
You know, it's interesting. We hadn't even talked about the live stream stuff, which you're actually killing it with. You did a live stream 12 hours ago.
It's crazy.
It titled "Veteran Biker Reacts to the State of the Union." As we're recording this, the State of the Union for the United States of America. Obviously, people listen to this worldwide, but the U.S. had a State of the Union last night where President Biden got up and spoke for a good long while, and you reacted to that. That live stream now has 70,000 views. It is over 2.5 hour. Just out of curiosity, do you know what the watch time is on that video? Because I'll say this while he looks that up.
Take a guess.
Oh man, I don't even want to know, because if that many people, it might be kind of low because some people click on it, they get mad at you and bounce off. I don't know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
You wanted average view time, right?
Yeah, right. And the reason why I'm asking him to pull this up is because this is another way that I believe that you can monetize, that Ben can monetize very, very well. A video like that people are staying, you're getting super chats, you're getting ad revenue because you're reposting it as a video, a VOD. He owns everything because he's reacting to the content, so he can make a lot of money. Do you know what the average watch time is on that one?
19 minutes.
Yeah, around, I said that, 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean,
19.6 thousand hours of watch time. Almost 20,000 hours of watch time.
So 20,000 hours of watch time on one bit of content. So that covers him for the whole year if you're trying to get approved for monetization, right? So
it's crazy. It's crazy.
My buddy Roberto Blake, who is one of the best YouTube educators out there, he's awesome. Has really been pitching this a lot, in that do live streams. And trust me, I'm growing my YouTube Creators Hub podcast YouTube channel right now. We just surpassed the 500 subscribers. I haven't really done much with it. My plan is to do YouTube channel reviews, YouTube channel audits there, do these, couple hour live streams and repost them as videos. And I really think we're going to do really well with them. So if you're looking for a way to really connect with an audience, a live stream is the way of doing that. And so congratulations, Ben. You're really killing it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any final words you want to leave us with before we sign out?
If you don't have a YouTube channel, I suggest you start one. And if there is anything you are interested in, do not assume you're the only one interested in that. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Ben. You have had so much great stuff for this 30 minutes that we've been chatting. I appreciate it. You take care, and we'll talk to you next time.